What is going on, YouTube people? Today, another edition of the weekly sports card market update, back after a week off. Traditionally, taking a week off with the National and all the nonsense that was going on with that. Probably, I don't know what we'll do in a couple weeks. We have Fanatics Fest up on the screen here. I will be traveling to New York in 2 very short weeks. I'm recording this on Saturday afternoon. That show begins on the 16th. Just about 2 weeks to go. We are still in the post-national bliss, high, relaxation, whatever you want to call it. Recovery maybe is the best term. But I'm excited to see what Fanatics Fest is and how it stacks up compared to the National. They're going to be 2 very different shows, but coming off back to back very close together like this, I think it's going to give us a good glimpse into the future. The Fanatics Fest lineup is absolutely loaded. Tons of athletes, tons of autograph appearances, if that's your thing. Fanatics Fest is definitely, you can kind of see this by the dealers, the attendees, the guests, definitely skewing more new hobby 2.0. The dealers are a lot of people that you've heard of. The guest lists are more recent players. You're not getting a lot of like the old retired guys that, vintage baseball guys, whatever. You're getting a much more 90s, 2000s, modern, current tier of player versus at the National. You get some of that for sure, but a lot more, air quote, of the old timers as well. Curious to see how the panels work out with this thing. Just a lot of interesting things to kind of take in from this show. I don't know how much I'm going to actually, air quote, buy cards, as I'm going more just to kind of see what this thing is all about and film some content at it and let you boys and girls know that, couldn't make it, kind of what this thing is like. So that's the next big thing on the radar coming up. Look, if you're heading out to that show, look forward to seeing you there. I will be there Friday and Saturday and possibly Sunday. Not 100% sure on Sunday yet, but I will definitely be there all day Friday and all day Saturday. Already got some reservations locked in for dinners and stuff like that. So it should be an absolutely wild time. We have a ton of news to get to. Like I said, the National, everyone's done their post-National recaps, breaking it all down, talking about it. It was a great time. I had a fantastic time. It'd be really hard for me to have a bad time at a National. Went in not looking for anything specific, ended up making some great pickups, got to hang out with a lot of my friends, make some new friends, reconnect with people, both in the hobby sphere and at various different companies. Great networking event, picked up some cool PC stuff. It was in my own backyard. It probably never will be again. Sorry, Cleveland, you've outgrown this event. But we're back in Chicago for the next 3 years. I don't care what anyone says. If you've never been to one, I highly encourage you to attend one. I know I talked to my buddy Steve Splenda. The last National he attended was like in the early 2010s, and just how blown away he was attending this event. Talk to someone that had never been to one before. That's what I would recommend to you to do, is find someone that, this was their first time attending a National, and get their thoughts on it if you're on the fence about going or not. So looking forward to Chicago. It's a year away. Got plenty of time. Get things together, get things in order. I'll be excited to be back in Chicago, though it is a little bit of a travel. Great setup for that show. Before we dive too deep into news, shout out to channel partner ComC.com. My shipment of cards I sent out, and part of the reason why I decided to ship this and not drop it off to the National, it arrived at the ComC's doors as the National was opening. It is already halfway processed. You can see down here, bottom right corner, I have 41 cards remaining on that shipment, and I have already been selling things. We got a couple bucks there, $5 there, 50 cents there. Like I said, when I sent this stuff in, I'm going to whiff on some things. I'm going to do okay on some things. Most of these cards cost me 50 cents to upload. You can see some recent purchases here that I made. I actually just had about 3 or 4 cards shipped home from ComC. Those should be arriving fairly soon. But I am creeping milestone on ComC. I am up to $4,700 in sales on ComC, creeping towards the 5K mark. So we're almost there. Probably, I don't know that this batch of cards will get me over 5K. We'll see. It'll probably take another one. I don't do a lot of, and once again, there's no right or wrong way to use ComC. I don't do a lot of on-site flipping. I know a lot of people do. I just don't have time for it. Most of my sales come from cards that I have sent in that I pull from random wax that I open that would just normally lay around. So that's an extra $4,700 in ComC credit that I have to play with, or had to play with because I've spent a lot of that already. That would normally just be cards piled around me, and that is how I like to use the platform. Plenty of ways to use it, but go check out ComC, sponsor of the weekly sports card market update. This has been talked to death, so I'm only going to hit on this very, very quickly, mostly just to refer you to the last 2 days worth of videos. All the downtown nonsense, and Panini actually gave us a little bit of an update. I wanted to kind of take this a step forward. We're going to look at some card prices here in a couple of minutes, but just the fact that Panini made a comment on this should tell us something. They are not ones to make public-facing comments about anything, and they have had some interesting situations over the past few years that they've stayed quiet on, and this is the one that they chose to break the silence. It made me think they were at least concerned about sales for hobby boxes. And hobby boxes, as we've discussed over here on the Waxstat, going for about $850-ish for a regular hobby box. If you're not familiar with Waxstat, I've dabbled on the platform for a decent amount of time now. I actually had a very nice discussion with the person that runs it at the National. They give you a big breakdown on sealed wax. They are like the pure market movers, card ladder, whatever of wax. Not sponsored at all, just a website that I use on occasion. And I thought it was interesting to see this one. It shows you everywhere that the product is available, what price they have for it, the moving average, all sorts of craziness on here. But what we want to focus on is Optic Football hobby boxes, basically going for about $850, which is absolutely insane, given the lack of autos on the checklist. You're mostly hunting for downtowns and optic hollows, obviously numbered cards as well, but man, that's going to be tough to pull out. The other thing I was curious about, and I went to eBay for this one, was first off the line boxes. They're going for $1,600 to $1,800 a pop, and they have actually moved up ever so slightly. There's not a ton of data on it, but earlier in the week, they were going for about $1,400. And then guess what happened? First off the line is loaded came out. That narrative with maybe you could pull 2 downtowns in a box if you get a good one. Now they have shot up to around $1,800, $1,600 to $1,800 a box, which is absolutely insane when you think about it. Almost $2,000 for a hobby box of Optic Football. Now, it is first off the line. It's got some extra stuff in it and could be possibly juiced. Someone in the comments section joked yesterday on Saturday's video about, will people start listing these as from a hot case? Like if they open a couple boxes from the case and they pulled 2 downtowns out of a box or 2, do they list the rest as being like loaded? Myself personally, if I had a loaded case like that, I would just keep ripping, when in Rome. But I wouldn't put anything past anybody anymore about trying to list those like that. But first off the line boxes are definitely on the rise. We'll look at singles prices when we get into the charts and graphs section, looking at hollows and what some of the downtowns are doing. Sticking with Panini news, I did not do a video on this one. It kind of just came out at an awkward time, and I wasn't sure it was actually worth a dedicated video. Panini won its arbitration ruling against the NFLPA, and they got a $7 million check, which for the NFLPA, I can't imagine is actually, don't get me wrong, $7 million is a ton of money. For the NFLPA, I don't believe that is a lot of money. Could be wrong on that. And this was, if you don't remember, the NFLPA basically broke their contract and said, hey, we're going to Fanatics now. And Panini said, no, you're not. We're fighting this. And Panini won in a rare instance. Now, The other little note on this was that Fanatics was not really involved with this, and I think the arbitrators basically kind of said, Fanatics doesn't seem to have any involvement in this. This was solely a decision made by the NFLPA. So with Panini winning, they get the cash and they 100% get to hold on to the rights. Remember, there was this weird time a while back where maybe both companies were going to make product. Maybe Fanatics would be able to make NFLPA, but without jerseys. There was all sorts of rumors and speculations floating around what could or could not happen. Now, there's obviously still the antitrust case going on, the monopoly case going on. Still a lot of nonsense and shenanigans happening in the legal system when it comes to Panini and Fanatics. But in this case, Panini got a rare W. So what does this mean for us? Still not real clear on the exact date, which is kind of wild, but it sounds like the earliest we would get fully unleashed Topps Chrome football, licenses, helmets, players, everything, will be 2026 sometime. I think that's the spring of 2026, but I'm very nebulous on that date. So we have the rest of this year and pretty much of all of 2025 with unlicensed releases from Topps, because they can still make cards. It just has to be with athletes that are signed with them, which is what we're going to see with this composite football release that comes out in a few weeks now. That was originally supposed to release on the 16th, but it got pushed to, I believe, the end of the month. I still would not be surprised if they have some of those boxes at Fanatics Fest. It seems like too easy of a, hey, we're going to put a limited amount of this on sale as a teaser, as a benefit to those attending, and then save most of the back stock to ship out to people. I don't know. I have one of those boxes coming to rip. I'm not an unlicensed guy. I'll see what this thing looks like. I wanted to get hands-on so I could speak to it from someone that actually opened a box, held, and looked at the cards in hand and see what the rip experience is like. I feel like I'm probably not going to love the cards, but that I'm probably going to enjoy the rip experience, if that makes sense. Just to see Topps Chrome again, and then 3 autographs per box, and they're probably going to load these things up with inserts and all sorts of stuff. And I don't know that the print run was that big on them, but we'll see. Still no word on Topps Chrome basketball and what's going on with that. I'm guessing they want to get through this football release and then time basketball closer to the season actually starting. And then their other big product still coming for this year as well on the baseball side of things will be Topps Chrome Update Baseball. That will probably have, or Topps Update in general, will probably have Skeens in it, should have Skeens in it, and that will be a monster chase from that product when it releases later this year as well. The other big thing in the news, and once again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because it's been talked to death already, is the card scanning nonsense. If you want a full breakdown on this, I will refer you to the video earlier in the week. There really has not been any new news or revelations with this since this kind of made its rounds. This kind of was happening, basically kind of broke while the National was going on. So I got to it a little bit late, but essentially there is a company now offering the services of card scanning. I thought I saw somewhere, and I don't have the information on it, that there may be a second company offering this now as well. And I have a sneaking suspicion there will be more coming. I joked, I think it might have been on a live on Wednesday night somewhere. I joked, how many Nationals away are we from someone setting up this service on the show floor in some shape or form, where you could take a box over and have it scanned while you're at the show? How many years do we think we are away from that? I don't know, but probably sooner rather than we think, as scary as that sounds. Because remember, people, Kurt's card care, Kurt sets up at shows. Mr. Minty sets up at shows. So would it be that crazy to think that at some point in time we have a card box scanning booth at a card show as well? I don't think it is. Next up, before I forget, I did create one more Best Ball League. I will link to this in the description down below. $10 to get in, 8 hours. It is a slow draft. I don't know if this will be the last one or not. So if you haven't hopped in one and you want to sneak on in this one, all the links and stuff will be in the description down below. Next, charts and graphs time. Let's hop on over to market movers once again. Link in the description down below. Let's look at some charts and graphs. We got some baseball stuff we got to talk about, some football stuff to talk about, a little bit of basketball, and a little surprise for you at the end. Jackson Holliday got called back up, hit a grand slam in his first game up. They made a Tops Now card of it. Everyone lost their minds. His card prices have not recovered from the initial hype fest this past spring. Not surprising at all. We've talked about this for years now on the channel. Typically, the best time to exit out of these guys are during the hype or right before or during the call-up phase. That is almost always their most expensive price point. Even people that have gone on to have monster careers, especially in the modern era. PSA 10 first Bowman auto currently sitting at about $800. PSA 9 currently sitting at about $400. And you can see those have had an uptick on the end of that graph on the right-hand side, given his call-up. During the peak boom cycle of the spring, this was a $1,400 to $1,600 card. He broke camp, struggled, got sent back down. Card prices tanked and are now slowly creeping back up again. Jackson Holliday could go on and have a very, very great career, but odds are it'll take a lot for him to get back to that $1,600 price point, at least anytime soon. Next up, Jazz Chisum traded to the Yankees, had a 3 home run game or something, started really hot for them. His prices have gone way up. Probably one of the biggest winners price-wise from the MLB trade deadline. Over the last 90 days, and really all of this is in the last couple of weeks, up 200%. This is his first Bowman base auto. Was going for about $50-$60 for most of the season and is now up over $200. Not the best time to be buying Jazz. Exciting player. Brings a lot of energy to the field. Fun to watch. We'll see what he could do on the Yankees, but off to a very hot start so far. Next up, speaking of exciting young players, Paul Skeens. We've been looking at his stuff the last couple of weeks now, and it does actually appear that his prices are starting to slow down a little bit. Now, these get juiced right back up again. But I have here his first Bowman Refractor auto in a PSA 10. That's that dark blue line. And then his base auto is the light blue in a PSA 10 and yellow in a PSA 9. And what you notice had the big run up here, kind of leading up to the All-Star break and throughout the early part of July, got up to around the 2.2K mark in a PSA 10. You can see the refractor peaked out at about 4K, which is absolutely insane. And Skeens has still been pitching really, really good. He hasn't had any problems at all, but his prices have actually come back down again. You can see the refractor now back down to 2.8K and the base Bowman PSA 10 back to the 1.5, 1.3K range. So this kind of goes to show that even though a player could be playing absolutely great, nothing has gone sideways at all with him. At some point in time, the momentum slows down a little bit, even on someone as great as Skeens. And a lot of it just could be, a lot of people got into his stuff for very cheap. Maybe people are looking at the prices and going, hey man, it's time to get out of this thing. Let me take my money and run. I could always buy it back later. But Skeens prices do seem to be stalling a little bit. Maybe it's just people changing their attention to football. Who knows? We'll see how he finishes out the rest of the season and how the offseason goes for him. Absolutely fantastic talent. Pitchers just scare the absolute bejesus out of me. A couple winners from the season so far. We've talked about these guys a bunch. Gunar, Henderson, and Bobby Witt just continue to climb. This is their first Bowmans over the last 180 days. But you can see there has been very little drop off in their prices. Just slow and steady climbs throughout the entire season. This chart dates back to February, so right before spring training. Gunar Henderson's first Bowman is up 120%, and Bobby Witt's is up about 36%, so a much bigger jump for Gunar. But both these guys climbing very nice, very steady. And it is kind of nice to see, hey, these guys are having absolutely fantastic seasons, continue to have absolutely fantastic seasons, and their card prices are actually reflecting that. A lot of times that's not always the case. People play really, really well, even for long extended periods of time, and card prices don't move that much. It's not just about performance. There's a lot of other nonsense involved in it, but at least with these two, their owners of their cards are being rewarded for the strong seasons that they are having. I know I sold a Bobby Witt, the Mullet SP, back in the spring, and that card has gone way up since I sold it. So a ton of Witt stuff is going to the moon and back again. The other big piece of news this week, Mike Trout tore his meniscus again and is now officially done for the season. Was rehabbing, trying to come back. His PSA 10 2011 Topps update currently sitting at just above $900, just hanging on. This is over the last 180 days. So once again, this dates us back to spring training. Down about 10%, give or take. This card was flirting with about $1,000 when the season started. Now down to about 900. We'll see how this news has an overall effect on him. Does this card continue to slip a little bit lower? Do we get down to the $800 range, or does it hold around 900? Very much troubling having another major knee injury like this and what this means for the rest of his career. Now, he'll be back. I'm sure that he will, but I don't think he's stayed healthy. What's it been, like 5 or 6 seasons now? He has had some sort of major health issue in the season and just cannot stay healthy at all. He's had an absolutely fantastic career. If he retired tomorrow, he's not. He's still going to keep playing, obviously. But the long term now, a lot of the stuff people were baking into him for crazy career milestones and things like that probably aren't going to happen or need to be drastically readjusted. So we'll see what that means for his prices overall. Switch over and look at a little bit of football. I wanted to take a look at optic stuff just because I was curious with the release. Now, the weird thing with this release, though the hobby and first off the line boxes came out this week, retail has been out for a while, a long time. Remember, optic retail came out, I don't know if early or what. They had to delay hobby boxes. Remember, there was all that controversy around there was no checklist. The PSA wasn't grading cards for a hot minute. All sorts of shenanigans with optic this year. So we have a lot of sales data on it already. In fact, we have a lot of graded sales data on it already. Here are optic hollows from 3 of the bigger players. We have CJ Stroud with about 250-ish on the pop report, going for pretty much dead on $500. Anthony Richardson, a little bit closer to 200, 225-ish, 230-ish on the pop report, sitting at 225. And then Bryce Young sitting at just under 100 on the pop report, sitting at about $130 on there. So we have a lot of data already that we would not typically have when a hobby box releases like this. So even if on a regular hobby box, you hit a Stroud optic, which would be a good hit, optic hollow would be a great hit for a Stroud. You're lucky enough to send it off and it gets a PSA 10. It's a clean copy. It sells for $500. The price of the box is $850. If you hit the best optic hollow and it grades a 10, you are still losing half your money. Now, if you hit some of the short print stuff, different story. Well, air quote short print. Let's look at the downtowns really quickly. Stroud optic downtown, PSA 10, currently sitting at about 60 on the pop report, going for $5,000. $5,000 for a PSA 10 optic downtown of CJ Stroud. AR-15 sitting at around 70 on the pop count, going for just over $2,000. Bryce Young, 30 on the pop count, much lower on Bryce Young, just under $2,000. Will Levis sitting at around 50 on the pop count, just under $2,000 as well. Both those guys are in that 1.7 to 1.8K range on their optic downtowns. So if you hit an Anthony Richardson downtown and it grades a PSA 10, you've done quite well. Any of the top, basically, if you hit any of the top young quarterbacks, you're going to do okay on a box. But remember, they're supposed to be case hits. And the checklist is 40 cards deep. So even if you hit a downtown, you still have to get one of these guys or one of the other big players. You know, there are plenty of other players on the downtown checklist that would be pretty good hits. There's obviously number chases as well, but you just kind of get the point. It's on that $850 price tag. It's going to be rough. I have not watched a lot of breaks of straight hobby or first off the line yet. Maybe I'll check that out this afternoon as I'm just kind of having a lazy Saturday. Go watch people get smoked on Optic Football. But those are the downtown prices, at least on the big chase guys. Two last things, quick basketball one. Caitlyn Clark. This is just her base first Bowman Chrome, and the refractor of the same card. I was just kind of curious to see what these things had been doing, and that definitely a major upswing over the last couple of months. Things were going good in the spring, slowed down a little bit. You could see slight dips in prices as we moved to the early days of the summer. Her refractor was, her first Bowman refractor at one point got down to under $200, is now currently sitting at $600. Obviously, she's been having an amazing season in the WNBA, has been in the news constantly. Her prices have been on a steady incline, even on her base Bowman. This thing was at about $100 at one point in time, is now up to $240 on her base Bowman Chrome. Fairly low pop counts on these, considering Caitlyn Clark's base in a PSA 10 is sitting around 2,000. Her refractor is sitting at around 650 in a PSA 10. Those were non-numbered refractors. But Caitlyn Clark's stuff continues to go to the moon. She was a very popular player at the National. A lot of people chasing her autographs and stuff on cards. Last but not least, little surprise giveaway. I didn't mention this anywhere in the video. If you hung around this long, you have a shot to win one of these little Zion case slings. Not sponsored in any way. Picked up a handful of these at the National. They were running a sale on them. They were $10 a piece. They're $20 to order one. I have not actually tried one yet. I bought 4 of them. I'm going to keep one for myself. And then I have 3 to give away. We're going to do one today. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the other 2 yet. But just leave a comment down below with hashtag Zion in it. So you can leave your normal comment. If you fired off a comment, you can just put hashtag Zion anywhere in that comment, or leave an own comment with hashtag Zion. And then in a few days, usually takes a couple days for this video to run its course, I'll do a random comment picker and include it in an upcoming video, maybe even on next Sunday's weekly sports card market update, and give one of these away. You'll need to be following me. One thing to note, you will need to be following me on one of the socials, either Instagram or Twitter. Both those are in the description of this video, because I will need a way to directly communicate with you to get you address and information. After I run the comment picker, it will show up in a video, and I will comment on your original post with your hashtag Zion in it. So if you get a random, because people like to do scams on this stuff sometimes, if you get a random DM from someone that looks like me, if you haven't seen me reply to the comment yet, you haven't actually won. Someone might just be trying to trick you, so just be careful out there. So I will reply to the comment with a, hey, you won, and then the video of the actual drawing will be in probably next Sunday's video for the weekly. But just a little giveaway. I picked these up with the National. Wanted to throw something a little bit back to you boys and girls. Figured this would be nice, simple, and easy. So leave a comment down below. Put hashtag Zion somewhere in it. And then when I run the random comment picker, I will have it search for that word in your comment. And then I'll get your address information and get this mailed off to you. That is all I got for you, boys and girls. We will catch you on the next one, which will probably be tomorrow, obviously. But it'll probably be gem rate data and PSA August specials. I just have not had a chance to talk about those yet, so we will hit those tomorrow. We will catch you then. Peace.